Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Your Vibes Podcast. Everybody's got a vibe and a story to tell. Here's this one. I hope you enjoy. All right, we are back for episode number 4 of the Your Vibes Podcast. Pretty excited about today's episode, actually. It's a good continuation of the conversation that Justin Spurlock and I had last week, just kind of about Dickson. We got the man here himself, the City of Dickson Director of Planning and Zoning, Mr. Jason Pilkinton. Welcome, Jason.
Good morning. How you doing, sir?
Doing just fine. We seem to switch venues every single week, just kind of what vibes or what's going on. So Jason and I are sitting here at my place of work, Dickson Insurance, in the conference room, in a nice little table. We've got his newlywed wife here, and then our studio audience. You know, she's sitting here with a big smile on her face. I think. I've always wanted people to kind of sit in on these things. I think it takes things to another level almost. It adds another vibe to the situation. And so here we are once again, a little bit rainy Saturday today. And I think Jason and them you got a date tonight for a movie. Is that right?
Sure, yeah. We just been out this morning, just kind of peddling. Went and seen my youngest son's basketball game. He's in the rec league up here in the South Dickson League.
Cool.
I think it's South Dickson. Is it South Dickson? Something like that. Played at the high school, played 10, and done a little deer scouting.
Okay.
I know the season's over, but we're working for next year. And then went to Back Alley for lunch, and we're here. So we're excited. Yeah, we're going to finish up and head to Bellevue and go see a movie, maybe go to Bass Pro Shop. That's just
the real reason you're going to Nashville. That's
you always
exactly
want to end
right.
on Bass Pro Shop. You know, they got the Christmas gift cards. You got to go spend
You can't
those.
just let those sit around. No. You got to use them.
That's right. I tell there's a 30-day window. You have to use it. So
That's it. So speaking of hunting season, did you have a successful season?
yes, it was great. I had a good time doing that.
How many did you pull out of the woods this year?
I had 2, one with a bow, one with a muzzleloader.
Okay.
So I got my limit. One with a muzzleloader, I believe would be my personal best.
Really? How big was it?
He scored 140.
Wow.
It was 8. It's nothing just crazy big, but I target deer that are a little older and a lot of pressure.
Okay.
That's kind of my thing. Of course, my kids are involved, and of course, my wife. It's a little bit challenging trying to get everybody on a target deer, but it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding when that happens. But I kind of what I do, I try to target deer, like I say, are a little older and are in a little more confined spaces that are have a lot of pressure. Not really so much hunting pressure, just pressure in general.
Okay.
It's very frustrating,
Sure,
but very rewarding if you get them.
So are you in a climber stand, or do you hunt on a ground blind, or how does that? What's your
typically
pick?
Typical stands. Sometimes in the areas that we hunt, there's not even a good tree, so you kind of got to go ground blind. But
Okay.
Wind's real tough.
Yeah.
You got to hunt the wind a lot. So it's fun. Have a lot of fun doing it.
Do you duck hunt too?
I do a little bit. I got tons of my friends that just pretty much don't work for 30 days, at least. So I kind of go 1 or 2 times a year. Plan on doing a juvenile hunt this year. Actually, I have not been this year, and I heard it's pretty tough this year, but we're planning on doing a juvenile hunt with my 2 sons.
Cool.
That last juvenile hunt. So we're got some buddies out hunting this weekend, actually. They killed some yesterday.
Good.
So it seems like they're at the end on their lease. I think down in Dyersburg they've done pretty good the last couple of days, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to duck hunt. I hunt deer and turkey and the fish, so I can't do it all. I still have to work.
It sounds like you pretty much do it all.
Yeah. It's I don't sleep much,
That's
but
it.
I use those saying as you can sleep when you're dead.
Sleep when you're dead. That's exactly right.
Rest in peace. So.
Be buried with some of them deer heads.
That's right.
Yeah, stick them in the casket.
Yeah.
And you're coaching ball too, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, coach. Yeah, I've been helping Dickson Middle School for the last 3 years. Last year we lost our season due to COVID. That was tough.
Yep.
My son was a freshman at the high school, and he was super looking forward to working, with those guys. They had a really good crew, some good seniors that, this past year, of course, I've graduated now, but, being on the Hill with being a Cougar, I'm an alumni there. He's my alma mater. So Rodney Parker is the head coach.
Okay.
Super phenomenal guy and coach.
Cool.
So we're just really excited. So hopefully it appears that right now they're on track to play this year. See, the schedule's out. They've been practicing. I think officially starts probably around February 1st, this next week.
Okay.
And they should start playing around the end of February. They'll start their season, and fingers crossed we can see some baseball this year.
Hopefully we see something.
Yes.
I mean, I know you know as well as I do, and everybody else out there, that COVID's taken a toll on quite a bit, and it's changed things up for a lot of people and businesses as well. I mean, little retail stores took a hit, and it seemed like a lot of office spaces seemed to realize that a lot of their employees could work from home pretty efficiently as well too. So it should be pretty interesting to see what comes out on the other side of this thing, whenever that may be. Just kind of how the world operates again. If it, I don't like to use the term the new normal. It's just, it seems a little drastic for a lot of things, but yeah. So everybody seems to be pushing through, and again, I'll say it every episode that Dickson has handled this extremely well. I mean, from your point of view, I mean, comparatively, how Dickson seems to have really come out, or is really still going through this in a good way and support local. I mean, is that what you're seeing too?
Yeah, it is. The city had come together and they done a relief package.
Right.
They done some transfer some tax dollars into some COVID relief benefits. Of course, some people, some small businesses were able to apply, for federal funds too. That helped. It was, I guess, lack of a better word, a Band-Aid, because, a lot of businesses were struggling and still are. But like you said, you touched on that. Some things have changed a little bit. We see some restaurants that are still kind of doing takeout.
Mm-hmm.
Seems that maybe their overhead, when they kind of shifted to do just takeout, maybe they had let some people go and it kind of cut their overhead down just to make ends meet. And we all understand that. I guess selfishly we would like to see some of those places kind of reopen so you can actually dine in.
Sure.
But we get it. I think everybody adjusted well. I think a lot of the community tried to support the takeout businesses.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people, intentionally, to go to some of their friends and family or just neighbors, and we're a small community. We kind of know everybody, but I think the community kind of done what they could to help, some of your restaurants, to get through. And I think it went as well as it could be.
Yeah, as well as it could, and that's absolutely right. So let's kind of dive into you a little bit as far as kind of how you got to be where you are. Maybe a little bit about what you were doing before the position that you're in now, and kind of that path that led you there. And then I've got some kind of notes here of questions that I don't have a clue about on some things.
Yeah.
So I guess really kind of before where you're currently at, where were you, and kind of what led you into doing what you're doing now?
Well, it's an interesting story.
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. I had, if someone had told me in high school that I would have been a zoning director, I would have laughed and said, "What in the world is a zoning director? I don't even know what that means." I was like, it depends on how far you want to go back. When I was a kid, I want to be a fighter pilot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, cool.
So that turned into just, hindsight, probably something that maybe you just never know if I would have pursued the military in that way. The military for me was a dream. I remember as a little kid fishing our pond. I'll never forget this. I was probably 10 years old. And, we're north end of the county, which is Charlotte, and of course you got Fort Campbell. And the north end of the county is a flyway. It's always been a flyway to Fort Campbell. And and even to this day, we always hear, helicopters and things fly over. But when I was a kid, there was a plane that was used a lot in Vietnam called the F-4 Phantom.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, I was 10 years old. I was fishing in my pond. And an F-4 Phantom come over our house. And we have about 100 acres in Charlotte. And he was literally just over the trees. And he was in a bank, and I could see pretty much every bit of the plane. as he banked over, just that portion of Charlotte and just happened to be over our farm. And I'll never forget that.
Is that a big plane? I don't know.
It's a fighter jet.
Okay.
It's a fighter jet.
So it's going fast.
It's going fast.
Okay.
But he was in a bank turn. He was just over the trees. I mean, not touching the trees, of course,
Sure.
but I will never forget that feeling. When that plane come over, and it struck a chord to me about, being flying and planes.
Top Gun.
And Top,
you got the hair for Top Gun. I know that much. You done would fit that role real good.
Yeah, no long hair jokes today, please. But no, so, as a kid, that was, that struck a chord in me.
Cool.
So I've always been fascinated with airplanes and that sort of things. But so fast forward, I went to college. I actually was going down the path of being a game warden, being an outdoorsman. We talk about, I actually went to UT Martin.
Cool.
And it was in wildlife biology classes, and that was kind of my major. It was a good time. I enjoyed UT Martin. And met a lot of good friends up there. And I transferred to Austin P, strangely enough. And there was a coach there at the time that I had spoken to, and I was dating a girl that did not marry here. And I said, well, I could kind of transfer back to home and maybe go out for baseball, at Austin P. And that didn't pan out too well. I didn't actually make it to a tryout.
Okay.
So I did transfer to Austin P, and end up leaving Austin P that next semester. Went to work. And then actually rode into a community college called Walter State.
Okay.
And I started going down the path of law enforcement. So in Walter State is a school up in Greenville.
Okay.
And at the time, you could go to their community college, and when you graduated, you would be a state certified police officer.
Wow.
So I had applied here at the city to be a police officer, and I made the top 10 list the first time. But so in that year transition, before I applied back, I went to Walter State and enrolled in that college. I went to a good friend of mine enrolled with me, and we completed that next year at Walter State and actually graduated.
Okay.
So
this is your third stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with the credits I had from UT Martin and Austin P and kind of Walter State, I technically kind of graduated like an associate's type degree, but it was in law enforcement. So I came out, and when I reapplied to the city, I was a state certified police officer. So that helped.
Okay.
That helped the city out for not having to hire me and send me to the academy because I was ready to go straight to work.
Yeah.
So with kind of being fascinated with the military as a child, when you get in law enforcement, that's kind of paramilitary. Mm-hmm. I love the structure. I love the chain of command.
Cool.
I really enjoyed that. And I fit right in. Had some really great training officers here. And I was a police officer here for almost 6 years.
Wow.
On the SWAT team.
What year are we talking here?
I stared in 97.
Not to age you or anything.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was talking to Danielle, I wouldn't ask the question.
I'm numbers don't scare me. I'm 46.
Okay.
So I started
46 young for that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I started the city of Dickson as a police officer in 97.
Okay.
And I left and transferred to zoning in the beginning of 2003.
Okay. Why'd you leave?
It's tough. I was playing music with a friend of mine at the time. I had my first child.
Okay.
Of course, being a police officer, you're working weekends, and I work second shift a lot, which I really enjoyed it.
Night shift, is that what that is?
Yeah, it's
okay.
2 to 11.
So that
3
was
to 11.
exciting there.
Oh yeah, that's when all the stuff happens. It was great. You get to drive fast down Highway 46. Go to Charlie's Corner back in the day. They was fighting in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Those were fun days. But I went to zoning, and the only tie I had to even building codes and zoning was my dad. I grew up. My dad was a union plumber.
Okay.
Pipe fitter, he calls it. But so when I was little, I would go to him on job sites, and I'd kind of help him with the plumbing and carrying the pipe and doing connections and that, and I knew what primer was and glue and all this sort of thing. So I had a knowledge of plumbing as a kid because my dad. I used to get in his toolbox and play and when I was little. And then we had our best friends at the time, which was his best friend, which was J.B. Smith, had a framing company. So in the summers of high school and even in college and even in between those colleges that I mentioned, I framed houses with the Smith Company.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I had enough knowledge of construction to what I call be dangerous. So when I go into zoning and the codes, I made that decision to try it, you know, and but my heart was still in police work. And actually, a lot of people don't know this, but probably a month in of being at the codes department, which is zoning, I actually went back to the police chief, which was Rick Chandler still at the time, and I actually almost went back.
Oh, wow.
Because I just, you know, me and the law enforcement, I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, I loved being in the community, and I loved serving the public, and I just really understood my position and what I was good at as far as in the police work. You know, every officer has a niche.
Sure.
So that was tough. It was a tough decision, but I stayed where I was. And then as I learned with building codes, you know, you are a public servant. There are things that you're doing to involve with the public to make things safe. Now, people don't look at it that way, but you do. You know, when we got a lot of codes classes, and we talk about in training, I said, you know, everybody loves a fireman. They always kissing the babies. Police, you know, it's 50-50 if they like you or not.
Sure, that's exactly
you know?
right.
But, you know, if you're in Walmart and lights go out, okay, the firemen come, they love them, everybody's safe. You know, police officers are kind of directing traffic, and everybody gets out safely, right? But what they didn't realize is that there was a code official in the beginning of that ensured that there was emergency lighting, there was proper egress in and out of the building. All those facets, what we call life safety.
Front end kind of stuff, make sure all the boxes are checked.
Yeah, so, you know, your code officials, it's tough because, you know, when you get in the code world, you know, when you go through design with engineers and contractors, you know, there are a lot of things they scratch your head and like, why do I got to do that? You know, but it is about life safety. You know, that's the intent of codes, is life safety, especially in commercial. So I started kind of being more comfortable with being in that facet of serving Dickson, but it's just not law enforcement anymore. It's a code enforcement.
Right.
I laugh. I tell people all the time, but the difference between a police officer and a code officer is I don't have any pepper spray or a gun, you know, because sometimes you show up and, you know, it's 50-50 if they like you or not.
That's exactly right.
So I've got some really funny stories.
I'll give you some pepper spray if you want some. You just walk around. I know you run into some characters sometimes.
Well, I have carried it before. But, kind of rambling, but yeah, that's kind of, you know, I started in law enforcement. Yeah. Went over to codes, had some knowledge of construction as a kid growing up, and I could relate to those guys out in the field that I think that's really helped me now in my career. I've been the guy out there framing in August and toting what we call 2x-heavies or 2x12, however you want to classify it, floor joists all day. And so, you know, when you go out there as a code, when I was an inspector, when I went out to those job sites, I really could relate to those guys. And if there's something wrong code related, I was very tactful to try to explain, hey, we need to do it this way, and we need to amend, you know, we need to fix that. And for the most part, it went well. You know, I learned the people skills, I guess, from law enforcement. So, you know, all that kind of went hand in hand with zoning. It's really helped me be where I'm at today. I would not be here without those steps and how it happened.
Sure. You know, it shaped you, you know, I mean, from the start to finish, it really, I mean, he's been obviously over, you know, that story, he's been a public servant for, you know, Dickson for quite a while now, and you can kind of see that in him too. I mean, I'm one of the few citizens say that I like to go to these planning and zoning meetings and you know, kind of these public hearings on things as well too, just to kind of see how things are going and how the decisions are made and you know, when they're not made or when they're you know, voted down on, kind of why and what shapes this county a little bit too. And you've got your hands obviously on top of that at all times, and you're a part of that assembly line as far as kind of start to finish. So maybe if you don't mind, just for people who don't really understand kind of how that process works, let's say we can use the old library, which they've demolished now. Kind of if the library moves from where it was to where it is now, and I come in and buy that and want to do something, I get a loan from the bank or whatever it may be, and I close and I come. What happens next? Let's say if I've got a grand idea to put something there. Kind of how does that step-to-step process look from start to finish?
Okay, good. That's a good question. When I was inspecting, when I got promoted to what they call interim director, I had worked up from inspecting to building official under Rydell. And then the good Lord threw me another curveball, and said, you're fixing to be a interim zoning director. And building codes and zoning are two different animals. And I was just getting my legs under me as far as inspecting and really being comfortable with that. And then you go to zoning. And that's where you're talking about. That's where administratively, there's a lot more things. It's way more in depth. Before I would go out and inspect a house or a commercial building, and I knew kind of what I was looking at. Zoning is even before that even happens. So, like you said, in zoning, if you want to where the library is, that's zone commercial. You would think it would be because it's on one of our main thoroughfares, but. Every area of the city can be zoned differently. You got commercial zoning, and there's 2 or 3 tiers of that, and you got residential. Again, you got 2 or 3 or 4 tiers of that, of how you're classified. So if someone comes in and says, "Hey, we're tearing the library down. I want to build something back." So in the zoning world, the city has a zoning map, that you have to reference. We have ordinances. And we have land use maps. We have all these things that you have to look at, and what they call uses permitted. So what's allowed in that specific zoning. So you learn that, and it's what you would think it would be. If you go down the bypass, you see offices and you see restaurants and you see retail and so mercantile, all those things. So that's typically what you see in your commercial corridors. So it would be something along those lines.
Okay.
So you'd start there. We do a lot of meetings that we call, I may sign a disclosure form on. We see a lot of those because people come in and they try to buy property and they'll contract it and they have a due diligence period. It's very, very important because they ensure that the zoning is there. They try to come in with some type of maybe a civil plan or an architect drawing, looking at the footprint of the building they want to build, the parking, all those sorts of things that you look at, can my idea fit on that property? And we talk about these things. And like I say, a lot of times I can't really discuss it out of that room. There's a disclosure because of people, of the seller to the buyer and their due diligence. Real estate is I might just fell. Real estate is like Nashville in a way. I laugh. I use this example. There's a saying in Nashville: you can't sing in the shower because somebody steal your song.
We're trying to fix the mic here at the moment. Hold on just a second.
Let me in here.
Yeah, mic. I'm gonna have to upgrade a little bit. It looks like this. Here we go. All right, we're good. Got it.
I think we got it.
Yeah. Good.
Good. I'm good.
All right.
Yeah. So like my joke there, they say in Nashville, you can't sing in the shower because they'll steal your song. Yes. In real estate, they will steal your deal.
Oh yeah.
So we're very courteous to those conversations.
Good.
So we look at that, and as far as when people pull the trigger, whether they have to rezone a piece of property or just simply go to planning commission for approval, once it comes to planning commission, that's when it's public record. Okay, we've been hearing people have questions on that all the time. When can I get a copy of that? So when someone officially submits to a planning commission for a project, when I have that application in my hand, then anyone could walk in and say, hey, I want to see the application. So, we have conversations a lot of times before planning commission, but for the most part, things are zoned accordingly and they just bring those in. So they'll go through planning commission. Site plan approval, can be a one-time meeting.
Is that all back off? Is that office work, or is that a public forum of sorts, or?
Yeah. So when they submit that in, we review it in house for staff. We have a regional planner that helps to revise some comments as far as if there's anything missing from the application that needs to be shown. But our planning commission meets once a month. It is a public meeting. It is on our website. We're now being. We changed the website for the city. Now we're able to show more of the agendas and minutes and things that's coming up. So we've kind of always been able to do that, but our website was down for a while. But it's a regular scheduled meeting. We meet every month on the third Tuesday, and anyone can walk in and listen. Now, typically, it's like anything else. It's usually the only people there that have business. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, you'll see people that's a neighbor or somebody relatively close, and they see something kind of going on, and they attend just to listen. We have some of the leadership groups. I've been to all the leadership groups here as far as Dickson County, and then leadership Middle Tennessee. But sometimes you'll see those leadership groups come in. We've had Boy Scout, Eagle Scouts come in for merit badges, and they have to do some type of government meeting, and so we see those. We help with high school as well on their youth leadership classes and workforce.
Okay.
So anybody can attend those meetings, and usually once they get approval, that's when it goes to design, and that's when you start seeing more of the grading, design, engineered drawings, architectural stamp drawings, those sort of things before they actually get a permit.
Okay.
So you sometimes you have a little stretch there from when they got approval to actually when you see them break ground.
Okay. So once you get it approved, and then they start breaking ground and moving forward, are there any other steps, after that, or they just kind of have to make sure they stay in that box of approval, to move forward?
Yeah, there's our ordinance allows, what they call a minor revision to a site plan that's approved. We can do minor revisions like at staff level. If it's something major, if they was to change the concept of the building or make the building larger, that would have to go back and resubmit. You don't typically see that. Once they get to design and pull permits, they're locked in. Because on the grading end of things, that footprint has the concept of grading for that product. So you don't really change a whole lot of that once you get started. That can get expensive and it can really slow the process down if you have to go back and regrade something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So refresh me. How long have you been in the position you're in now? How many years?
Okay, so I just triggered my 24th year with the city.
Wow.
And I've been zoning director since 2007.
Okay. So you've had you've had your finger on the pulse for quite a while now.
Yes.
And the conversation I like to have with the guests on the show, your role specifically of everybody that I have had has been the most closely related to, especially as long as you've been there, has been the most closely related as far as the growth, what you've seen, and you've seen, into the belly of the beast, and it's the process from start to finish, and the people coming in town and what they want to do and where they're coming from really as well too. I mean, a lot of this growth we're seeing is some outside investors as well too. So, in the 24 years you've kind of been the servant here, public servant in this role. Obviously, I've lived here. I moved here in 2012. Grew up in Bellevue. My lovely wife brought me out here, and I worked for her dad. So it's one big happy family, and I've seen some significant growth, since I've been here. But kind of you as you've been able to kind of go with it and kind of help and yay and nay on some stuff and have been played a real pivotal role as far as shaping where Dickson's at today, and done a fantastic job, by the way. I mean, you and all the other leadership as well too. And so kind of, I guess, back a little bit, where you've seen Dickson grow, how it's grown, and maybe how some things that you didn't expect, really. You've seen in the past 24 years. Well, 5 years in, I see Dickson doing this, and I know you're a hustler, and obviously, and work your ass off, and you think about things in life, and Jason and I have had some real great, just kind of private conversations, just spitting some things back and forth on life and Dickson and some other things as well too. But so where have you seen it kind of grow, and then maybe we can kind of get into the next 5 or so years as far as what you're seeing, maybe what's in the works, and things around that level as well too.
Yeah. So. I'll go way back. I forgot to mention I grew up in Charlotte.
On the ridge?
On the ridge. Harper's Ridge. Harper's Ridge down there on 49. So when I was a kid, I thought it took 45 minutes to get to Dickson because I was in the back of a truck. And we'd go down to Main Variety every now and then. There was a big K over there where Harbor Freight is now.
Okay.
It's called Big K, which was kind of like Kmart.
Okay.
And we'd come to Dickson, rarely. But if I was good and got my chores done, we came to Dickson, we'd stop over and I'd get a Matchbox car.
Oh.
46 was a 2-lane. So, but I thought Dickson was forever from Charlotte. So you're right. I've been here for a long time in the area, all my life. That's all I know. So, growing up and coming to Dickson, so I graduated in 92. And, I did not come to Dickson a lot as a kid. Of course, I went to school here and graduated from the high school. There was just one high school then. And when I got into the city, when I first hired in as an inspector, I started learning more about the codes and the zoning and how the city laid out and where the boundaries were. And back then, Main Street had died. Okay, and I remember telling people this story. Is my generation? I didn't ever go downtown as a teenager. We would come up here to where Popeyes used to be Hardee's.
Uh-huh.
And then where Walmart is used to be Trails. You just go out there and
ride around
the mud.
Legally or illegally.
But so our mayor been the longest term mayor, which is Donnie Weiss. Mm-hmm. When he grew up, he was the kid riding his bicycle down Main Street.
Wow.
And he would talk about those stories, and the administration would talk about how great Main Street was because it's all they had. Okay, and then it died. Okay, and my generation, I call it. I didn't understand any of that, and it was nothing down there to go to. So when I went to Leadership Middle Tennessee, I went through that series. It's two or three people from each county. Mm-hmm. There's a power of 10 around Nashville, and Dickson's one of them. So I went. It's all about regionalism, and you go learn about, what if something happens in Franklin or Clarksville, that's good for Dickson. Mm-hmm. Just like if something happens in Dickson, it's good for Cheatham County. Mm-hmm. So I learned more about regionalism, and I learned about the downtowns, and that's when these downtown revitalization grants started coming out. And the mayor was all about it. And, that's probably the most success story for I think for the city of Dickson was the downtown, because they had a committee and they attacked that concept and they wanted to bring those downtowns back. And I think it was Governor Haslam at the time triggered some of those funding. And when Dickson got the Phase 1 grant for downtown, at the time, that was the largest grant given yet.
Wow.
And it came to the city of Dixon.
Is it from the whole state?
At that time.
Okay.
They've been larger ones then.
But at that time.
That Phase 1,
cool.
City of Dixon was awarded the largest grant for the downtown project.
So what do you think? I mean, was that a sales pitch, or was that what was existing? I
think it was a lot of things. I think it was that the powers that be, which would be the mayor and the council, Brian Reagan was deeply involved in that.
Okay.
And I think they really understood that Dickson being on this side of Nashville, that would be a great place to invest those money.
Cool.
Because in the Reagans, the historians, of course, they know all the history of Dickson. And, of course, our mayor riding his bicycle down there, they wanted to bring that back. And when I went through leadership, Middle Tennessee, that concept, I got it. The light bulb went off for me. And because I'd visit these other towns, and they talked about it. And they talked about these grants, and they talked about, that's the heart of your town is your downtown. So fast forward a little bit forward, when that kind of went through, and my daughter, she just turned 20, but when she went to Dickson Middle School, she started walking downtown after school. Mm-hmm. And my son's 16, is sophomore, but when he come through Dickson Middle, they'd go down to House Plan or go to Junior Hibachi and all those. And it really turned out as what I thought would happen is now when you drive down, you can't find a parking spot.
Right.
It's thrived. It's been a home run. So, the growth of Dickson, from where I was a kid, not really understanding the downtown, and then the downtown as it is today, it's been a home run. It's awesome. It's going to get better.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of investment down there. You got new shops, but that's so that's something, I guess, answer one of your questions. I didn't see that coming.
Sure.
Because I didn't understand it.
Sure.
Until I worked here and I actually got invested in the community and understood how important that is. And then hats off to the administration that made it happen, and you can see the effects today, and it's just going to get better.
Sure. So yeah, kind of keeping the conversation going as far as learning from other cities as well too. That's a big thing in my mind. A good artist always steals from other people. For the most part, it's kind of this communal aspect, and I'll probably mention it almost every episode till everybody gets bored of it. But Corey had a really fantastic point in our first episode that in the age of COVID and even before, really, people come here because it feels normal. There's no crazy hubbub of sorts or parking garages or paid parking kind of deal. I mean, it's this town that is 45 minutes west of Nashville, hour south of Clarksville, hour north of Columbia, and last set of lights before Jackson, So it's just this really, really great geographically located spot that brings people here that don't really want to live in Nashville, and they want a little more property and a cheaper price and all of that as well too. So and you're absolutely right. The Main Street is the heartbeat of the county. And 5 years ago, I mean, heck, I was sitting it was like I was just sitting there watching a movie of these businesses that would come in and then leave, and then come in and then leave. And I think that now. That more people really from Nashville are moving here, as well as some out of county investment money coming in here as well too. People bringing new ideas, new perspectives, and you can have a day from North Main Street to South Main Street, and kind of around there as well too, with all different things to eat and things to do and shopping, and it's expanding as well too. So. Kind of in this growth process, you kind of, not you specifically, but a town seems to have to make some shifts or make some changes, or the old guard may need to kind of fade out a little bit as far as how things have been done. So what are y'all doing on your end as far as people wanting to come in and spend some money in Dickson buying property and redoing things? And let's say the idea is great, but maybe the zoning's not there, or some of the code stuff has to be changed. So are y'all not saying being lenient or having preferences to people or none of this political BS? It's how can we make these changes to better future growth? So are y'all seeing anything in your office or anything coming across your desk as far as hey, we may need to tweak this a little bit, or just need to do something here or there? Are you seeing any of that?
Absolutely. Great question. And let me be very clear when I say this. I say this to developers all the time. The city of Dickson, we hate to say no. Mm-hmm. We hate it. We want to say maybe.
Right.
We want to be very open to ideas. And our zoning ordinance, we call it a living, breathing document. We revise it all the time. We tweak it. There's always room for improvement. And I got a couple of success stories that I think that we've done. And one is, let's look at the interstate. There's a story there. So I coached some Little League baseball, and I coached Mr. Patel that has the Holiday Inn Express. I coached his son.
Wow.
In Ben Burns.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a good connection there.
And he called me one day, and he says, hey, I want to build a 4-story hotel. He said, but your ordinance won't allow it. Hmm. And I said, we need another hotel in Dickson? He says, yeah. And he says, we're getting a lot of traffic from Memphis area, and they stay at the 172. The marketing between Nashville and Memphis, there's 2 exits they talk about. The 172, which is Dickson, and then Jackson, which is 80.
Yep.
That's the 2 big ones. That's fact. So he said, well, I want to build like a Marriott product. He says, your zoning doesn't go that high. He says, I'm serious. I said, okay, well, give me a couple days. So I'd go to my city administrator, which is Rydell Wesson, which was my director at one time. So he's very in tune with zoning and the way things work. I said, why is hotels not allowed to go this high? He says, I'm not real sure. It's just always been written that way. So I called the fire chief, and I said, don't we have like a 100-foot ladder truck, for safety? He said, yeah, it's 90 feet, whatever. So, but in hotels and things, they're sprinklered for life safety anyway. So there's really no reason not to go a little higher. So I called him back. I said, hey, if you're serious, I have an idea. He says, if I can build a 4-story hotel, he said, I'm coming to pull a permit. Wow. I said, give me 3 months. So I revised the ordinance with staff and with everybody's approval, got through council. We raised the height limit for the commercial zone for hotels. Got that through a public hearing because it's an ordinance change, has to have a public hearing to that effect. Everybody supported it, wholeheartedly. Called him back in those few short months, and I said, I'm ready. And he brought me a site plan within, I think, 60, 90 days. And within 6 months, he was breaking ground on the first 4-story hotel of Dickson.
Wow.
Which is the Fairfield.
Mm-hmm. So nice hotel, too.
So that started from a phone call because I coached his son in baseball.
That's fantastic.
So I think it's great because that's how open we are. And that's how Rydell trained me. And that's how much I love this town. That's how I want it to be. That's how it should be.
Sure.
So we'll go to the next story. So in a lot of the areas downtown's, of course, what they call downtown commercial. But around it, kind of like a donut, is a lot of what they call R2, which is residential, and it allows like single family or duplex, hence the word two.
Right.
It cannot be apartments or high density. So there's a lot of areas around downtown that are houses that are on a little bit larger lot. Than what you see typically. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of smaller lots because they just tracked them up differently back then. Dickson didn't have zoning until 73. So before 73, we call it the Wild Wild West.
Just free for all.
Yeah. So in R2, there's a minimum lot size if you want to build a single family or a duplex, and the minimum lot size for single family was 12,000 square feet, which is still smaller than the county.
Right.
But a lot of them were served by sewer. Mm. So I started kind of, once again, through leadership, Middle Tennessee, and visiting these towns and meeting some friends, I started kind of talking to these guys, other directors. I'm like, what's Metro doing with these? They call them tall and skinny.
Right. Shotgun homes or whatever.
But the concept was just a smaller lot. And he said, well, we do it this way, and we do it this way. So I kind of done a little survey, talked to some construction personnel. I talked to some developers, and I talked to, of course, my administrative staff, and I talked to the mayor, and I was like, I think we should tweak R2 for single family only. and lower that lot size if you have sewer. And I said, I believe there could be some areas around town that you could maybe take an old house that's dilapidated, probably should be torn down.
Yeah.
We do code enforcement too, so we see a lot of those. But, the money's not there to tear it down and build one, but it could work if you could tear it down and build two.
Yep.
Just with infrastructure costs and just costs in general. And so we did it. So we went in and we lowered the minimum lot size in an R2 zone, which intent was primarily around downtown. And you could have two lots, 50 foot wide,
Okay.
125 foot deep. So went to around 6,500. I think it's 6,250 to be exact. So almost in half from what it originally said. Now, and the reason for that, like, man, it's a small lot, and it is. But if you're served by sewer, that's the culture shift. I'm 46. I don't mind telling you my age, but I tell people I'm the last generation that likes to mow and weed eat. And I want 10. I got 10 acres at home.
It's therapy.
I
Almost,
want 10 acres. But your 25-year-olds do not. They want walkability. They want to be downtown. They like a smaller lot. And for the most part, they're probably a little bit better with their money than I was at 25.
Sure.
They're a little bit more in tune with being more efficient that I've seen. So we changed that in R2 district to have a smaller lot for single family, not duplex, because you got A and B is different, but for single family, and that's helped. How's
that helped you? Are you seeing some traffic come in?
We've seen. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I've seen several projects that took advantage of that lower lot size, and they were able to subdivide a few lots, build some new homes. We've had a couple of homes that were demoed, and they built two back just like we thought, and that continues today. I got a couple in the pipeline right now at the city that's taking advantage of that smaller lot size in R2. Now we have R2 zoning other places in the city, so you can get that benefit in other areas. But our intentions of our survey was to help downtown, so because you could live and walk to downtown and enjoy what they've created. All the business owners. So that was another, I think, shows that the city's willing to be very flexible. We're very willing to listen and change. We have to change. We can't be stagnant. Anthony Curcio was another big one. He was our first mixed-use building downtown.
That's an awesome place if you haven't seen it. Yeah,
and that was another one that we had to create that avenue for him to build what he built. And he came in. We had a conversation, kind of like me and you were having today, just talking. He said, "I want to do this, and I can't. And I don't know why I shouldn't be able to." And I'm like, "You're right. Let's talk about it." And there again, 3 months, 4 or 5 months down the road, Michael Curcio was involved, and there again, our mayor and council and Rydell, and we all just talked it out. And we created a checklist on how to do mixed-use development in downtown. And there you go. You had a $1 million piece of property built on Main Street. And we
with a swimming pool.
With a swimming
pool.
They could not figure out when the last time someone built something downtown.
Sure. So not only am I going to build it, I'm going to put a freaking swimming pool back there.
Yeah.
And that's a cool spot. I've seen pictures. I have yet to be in, but and a lot of those buildings downtown do have that second story. So I mean, have you seen other people kind of down the way, take advantage of those new changes?
Yes. Yeah. We've had some people take advantage of that. We've had people try to create that. There's a small catch, and I could not get away from it. Administratively, is the state fire marshal's office has some jurisdiction over the city. And there's a clause in there that they are over some jurisdictional rights on mixed-use development because you have the live-work units and you have some fire separation, and there's some things that if you try to create a mixed-use development within an existing building, then the state will make you sprinkle the entire building, not just the improvement.
Oh, wow.
And that's been a challenge. There's been some things downtown that it just could not work that way. Now, there again, to back up a little bit, if there was a lot of existing residential uses downtown that used to get a variance years ago for the mom and pops. You could live upstairs. And the state did say, we will recognize something that's existing that you would not have to sprinkle per se. But you had to get what they call a no review letter from the state, and we would help people get through that process. But there were some areas downtown that was already used residentially upstairs, and they were able to go in and modify or remodel those sorts of things. And so those continue to stay. And speaking of Curcio lived in one downtown before he built where he lived.
Okay.
He lived in upstairs, I believe, on the end down there before the alley of where you buy your tags, the old bank building.
That's right. Is that Anchor Financial Place? Is
something
that
like that.
That big blue place?
Years ago, Rick Hollis lived there.
Yeah.
My son was friends with Anthony's son when they were younger, and I remember them living there. So. So they actually lived downtown before he built his mixed-use development. So there was some that was already there, but as far as being able to, the catch is you could actually live on street level. That's what you could not do before. But our administration, especially with the mayor, he wanted to make sure that the storefront stayed on the main street, but you could live behind it.
Okay.
And that's what really was the changing point, that before you couldn't do that, but with mixed-use development under the city, and we changed the code, you could, because the buildings were so deep, they're like 125 foot deep, and all of our studies, even with developers, said, really, your retail only goes about 60 foot deep. There's really no reason to go any deeper because of the floor space and pricing for tenant per square foot. So there was a lot of dead space behind some of the existing old retail that we had downtown. So to create that mixed use and behind the commercial space was the kicker, and there's some success stories down there, and I think it will continue to get better.
There are some great success stories, and from what you're talking about and how you guys are being flexible and making these changes, and I mentioned it last week with Justin Spurlock as well too, is that and I'm sure you see it in 47 is not old, but there's a shift coming as far as kind of leadership in town. I'm looking and seeing who's on the boards and the councilmen and ladies and who are running, and people who are kind of starting to take over leadership roles of some larger businesses here in town, and the changing in zoning for the R2 as well too, to kind of satisfy this modern city life type of lifestyle while still holding on to this kind of normalcy feel of outside the big city. I guess a two-tiered question to you is, I see what's going on in Burns, and I see what's going on in Dickson and the downtown area, and there are some younger people coming in. I mean, just walking around, I see young people with their kids and their dogs. I mean, it makes my heart race. I'm like, hell yeah, finally, It's 8 o'clock at night and the lights are still on, I mean, and there's people walking around, and there's a line outside of Xander's, and we've got our own little brewery and several other just like nice little markets, but we're kind of, I've always harped on this controlled growth, which, I've been a huge fan of the way you guys have done that. Expansions and redoing the interstate ramps, hell, there was a lot of accidents out there, and, traffic studies and all that as well too. So, but we're kind of it seems to me, 55,000 people or something in the county?
Yeah, the census number should come out this year, so it's going to be high 50s.
Okay, wow. I think. And it's chugged along. I mean, it hasn't not ever, but it hasn't shrunk, and it's grown exponentially over the past several years. So we're kind of at this point, seemingly, to where, given COVID and how it's changed people in Nashville, and they want to just get the hell out of these dense areas, as well as pricing in Nashville and all these tall and skinnies going up, and they're just jacking up the price. People want to get the hell out. Older people who are looking to either retire, which Dickson can accommodate to that, or these younger professionals with kids as well too. So we're kind of at this point to where some amenities that we've not heard, but just wrestling around, in the leaves as far as some things trying to come in, and maybe as as well as anybody that it's a rooftop kind of deal. You've got the Publix, the Targets, the Chick-fil-A's, the Starbucks, all that stuff that fits into this realm of livability for people that may have not, maybe used to bigger cities and they kind of want to spread out a little bit, but still want those things to do. So kind of looking forward, what are you seeing on the plate as far as kind of what's got to happen in order because we all know that Kroger can't serve everybody in Dickson, or Marshalls can't serve everybody for their clothes or their little knick-knack type stuff. So it's inevitable, and you've got to look forward. So kind of where in your mind's eye do you see some tweaks happening? Maybe some expansions over into Hickman County a little bit, or moving up 48 North. I don't really know how you really do that, but White Bluff area, Burns. Kind of what do you see the next down the road of how we can kind of make that work for where it's going?
Yeah. So. The city limits today, we've done some small annexations, but it's land that we kind of required on the north, not really north end, but maybe the west end where the Buckner Park, we acquired some land that was on the edge. We had another little annexation that was on the Ted Williams farm out towards Interstate. Mm-hmm. But the annexation law changed years ago, and it has to be by owner request or referendum. Before... What's
a referendum?
You have to vote.
Okay.
You have to put on a voting system and let the people vote for it. So you could annex if it was in your certified growth plan. So it was different, but you had to do a plan of service and that sort of thing. So the annexation law is a little bit more restrictive, just for cities just to arbitrarily go out and start grabbing up some farmland on the edges. And that's probably a good idea, I think. I think that was probably fair. And so the city limits as Dickson that you see today probably won't change a whole lot. We're fixing to build a fire station 3 on the east end, 70 East by Greystone.
Okay.
To help with response times on that side. We're actually under contract with a company to start that process this year. But the point of that is the city limits is probably going to not change a whole lot because of annexation laws. So we kind of see what you see is kind of what you get right now. But the big thing for growth right now is utilities. Just had this conversation yesterday with Mr. Alex Wilson and Coach Corey over at the chamber office, and we have some sewer capacity challenges ahead, for growth, primarily probably in the industrial end spectrum. Huge. If it was something, we've had a couple of large residential applicants that's come through the chain. You kind of see on the news and newspaper, and some requests of one was 500 units out there in Gum Branch Road. That was pulled off the table. Yeah. As of right now, due to traffic concerns, we postponed those public hearings. We're just not ready for that in that area just yet. The infrastructure's not there. But so the challenge I think to grow is going to be utilities.
Okay.
Like I say, on the city's end, we're open to rezoning requests if it fits our land use plan or if we think it's a good idea. We are concerned with traffic. We do talk about those things on large requests, but so that's going to be something to talk about.
So traffic issue, kind of
traffic,
just a flow
traffic and utilities.
Sorts. Okay.
And I think if you said you had a long list of people to interview. I know you probably got some utility guys in there to talk about those infrastructure improvements and what's down the road because that's very important.
Yep.
But we're kind of brainstorming. I know, you've had this conversation privately, but we're ready to sit down with people like yourself, other business leaders, and maybe some water authority board members, chamber. Just sit down in a room and let's just talk. Let's start identifying these areas that, hey, could this work? Could that work? If there's an improvement needed for infrastructure, how can we fund it? What can we do? And let's do it as a team because we're open to it.
Good.
So that's kind of where it's at. So that economic side of it, it's going to kind of drive what comes in.
Okay.
All those things you mentioned, the Publix and the Chick-fil-A's and all those things that people ask me every day about, they're here. They're looking. Mm-hmm. You know, they will be here if they can make a property work.
Yeah.
That's the key. They've been here before. They will be here eventually. They want to be here. So yes, I'm excited. I mean, I don't know. You know, the next 5 years, I kind of want to say hold on to your hat.
Okay. I like that.
Because we have some things in the pipeline on top of what the city projects we're doing.
Cool.
You know, with the new fire hall, the splash pad they've talked about,
Yeah.
Hensley Park, you know, moving the senior center. There's a road expansion improvement we've talked about with Alexander Drive and Gum Branch. You know, the
Okay.
area I just mentioned. There's a connection there that we have on paper, and we've kind of funded it through bonds that we need to do a connection to help traffic around off Gum Branch to Alexander Drive to get to the light.
Okay.
Get away from the Cracker Barrel intersection
messed
with
up
Christie,
deal.
which
Yeah.
is, you know, we inherited that. It was there when we annexed it. So, you know, it's not us. It's
Sure.
it was just there. But 172 being so busy with, you know, with the marketing trend I told you about earlier, that's why it's there. But, you know, we're I don't know. It's going to be exciting. We're open for discussion.
Okay.
We have ideas, and we're open door for us. I know, you know, we're kind of running short on our podcast time now, but you know, you could I could see us doing a part 2 to this, talking about what's down the road. So
I agree. And there's I've got a page and a half full of things that other than Dickson, you know, to kind of bring out Mr. Jason, you know, who he is, who is he in his heart kind of deal. You know, and kind of why does that drive him to get where it goes? And so,
yeah.
So we're at this point, though. You know, we're here now. Dickson's at a good pace, and as you can tell by listening to Jason, some of this stuff, people, it drives me, like just seeing how this works. A lot of people just don't seem to care, but they like to bitch. You know, I mean, they
Yes,
like to come in on the back end and say, whoa. Well, I'm sorry, you weren't involved on the front end, and it's been public knowledge from, you know, the moment the stamp was put on the paper as far as, okay, we're good to do this. It's up to you guys as citizens of this amazing county, obviously heading with a growth projection of just some fantastic things coming down the pipeline, commercially and residentially as well too. I know several of the projects you're talking about as far as these larger developments wanting to come in, you know, and Dickson having more commercial and residential amenities, and the industrial park growing. You know, we're sucking from, you know, Hickman County and Humphreys County and these surrounding counties as well too for work. And if we can do that, then we can suck them in here. If we can put a place in, you know, on the ground for them to live, then it kind of just organically builds itself. People don't necessarily like to drive that far to work, and you know, they want to come to a town that's a nice, hospitable community that provides their amenities that they may not be able to get to kind of where they are now. So, you know, we're at this point to where you know, people such as Jason and the mayors and the councilmen and the chamber and all these people that you know, play a role and are part of these wheels and cogs that run Dickson, only know as much as you know they're presented to them as well as what they deal with. But we need to rely on a lot of you guys listening in the citizens of Dickson to kind of participate in these things, guys. I mean, I can't tell you how big of a difference you can make. You know, I mean, people don't vote for president or whatever it may be because they don't feel like their vote matters. 80% of life is just showing up. You know, just show up, and if you don't have anything to say, fine. At least you know what's going on, and something could come up down the road, and you could say, hey, I was there, and I remember that. Yeah, now I've kind of got something to say about it. So, you know, Jason has really painted a great picture as far as how it works, what the steps that need to be taken are, kind of who's at play. You know, and we could go on for hours about, you know, more is where it's going and kind of what else we see happening. But I really just urge you guys, you know, he talked a lot about leadership, Middle Tennessee and Dickson as well too. fantastic programs that have played a massive role in my life, and obviously yours as well too. Of just far as how the hell all of this works. You know, I mean, most people stop at hip Dickson, you know, and that is the detriment of that is just a suck hole. You know, you're a boat guy. You know, the happiest day of a man's life is when they sell their boat, they buy their boat, and then the next one's when they sell it. You know, it's just a suck hole of just this of energy and everything else as well too that doesn't paint a very clear picture as far as what's going on. And I hope you guys can realize that. So, you know, and you're not the first person to say we could do a part 2. That makes my heart very happy as well that you guys are enjoying these conversations, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback. And there will be some more parts and possibly some other podcasts as well too. So I've had a couple people reach out and wanting to be on theirs or start one with them. And as of now, I'm cutting myself off from any other really side hustles at the moment until I can kind of get some things rolling. But you know, I want to keep this kind of Dickson focused as well as some other things as well too. But more things in the works for sure. I think that citizen journalism and podcasts and everybody's kind of seemingly falling away from mainstream media is what it looks like to me. Even just numbers on pages as far as, you know, how many viewers these guys are losing and who trusts who kind of deal. So I was nervous as hell trying to start this thing and the amount of money I had to put in and time and sacrifice as well too. But I feel to me that it needs to be done. Like I don't have an option but to do it. Because there's people in this town who have a voice, who have a story, who aren't the people that everybody talks about. You know, they play a significant role in the background and in the forefront, and play a larger role than you may think in the decision making process as far as how all of this works. And Jason is just overall a top-notch guy that I've known for a while, and he's helped me pretty significantly answer a lot of my questions of things that I kind of dabble my fingers into as well, and it's made my life a little easier as far as my confusion on what the hell I need to do to do something. So, and he's got a great crew over there, lovely wife, lovely kids as well too. So, Jason, I do feel a round 2 coming on this down the road at some point. And again, I take it week by week. How the conversation goes is who I'm going to pick for the next week. So we'll kind of just play this whole story out of your vibes. And, you know, we got a good feel as far as, you know, what you're doing and why you're doing and how you truly love to be a public servant. I mean, you don't get that in a lot of places. You get people that want the position because they want to be able to make the damn decision, and that's an unhealthy way to play that role. Yeah. I think that's pretty combative as far as progress in the town. So thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to come sit here for an hour and kind of talk about, you know, what's going on and where it's going and provide a really unique perspective. So
I appreciate the kind words. I'm glad you're doing it. I've enjoyed listening to other podcasts. I think they're fantastic. I born and raised here. My heart's here. It's a great community. I'm super passionate about it. Sometimes I take it too personal, but yeah, I guess I'll leave with I appreciate everybody listening. Cool. And I'm an open door, and man, I love to discuss it. I love people to come, like you said, reach out for the truth. Please don't read. I don't even have Hip Dickson. I hear all the horror stories, and I turned my TV off months ago, so I watch maybe hunting, fishing shows, and maybe you should be a sheep farmer. Me and my wife were talking about.
We were talking about a sheep farmer. I'm telling you, this thing could go so many different directions.
Yeah, exactly. but no. We're excited. We work well with the county and Burns and all those people. You know, we want what's good for this community as a whole. And if you got questions, I'm a phone call away. I'm easy to find, and I look forward to maybe someone following up with me with something here or something in the future.
Yeah,
and then we'll see you on a part 2.
Yeah, if you've got any questions, and he's not kidding when he says he's an open door, not just specifically with me, but anybody I really deal with across the board. I've never heard anybody say, well, Jason just won't get back to me. You know, I mean, I have never heard that. That's how I like to see this leadership go too, because you are a servant to the people, and to close the people out, you're not doing your job.
That may happen during deer season. I apologize.
Sure. You gotta let the man. You gotta let the man shoot his 140 scores. You know, and turkeys and everything else as well too. Everybody's got a life, but for the most part, Jason is extremely accessible. His the people he's got surrounding him are extremely helpful. And doing a great job. So, again, Jason, thank you so much for taking the time, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.